This is Trash Talk with your host, Garrett the Trash Man.
Buenos días a todos. Bienvenido a today's podcast.
Word.
John, I bet you're flying high today. You flying high?
A little bit.
Good deal, dude. Flying high every day, aren't you?
Every day.
Flying high up in the sky. A lot. Let's just get into this. Like, that's just all there is to it. Let's get into this. You want to rant first?
I'll rant first.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So, my rant today is an experience I had within the last week, and that was possibilities. You know, I think as humans, a lot of times we'll look at, like, what possibilities are out there, and we look at things, oh, yeah, that'd be cool. You know, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'd like that in my life. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Do.
But then I had an experience where all of a sudden, like, okay, I have my little book of possibilities right here that I on a regular basis look at. And I'm like, oh yeah, those would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, my book of possibilities was like tenfold that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, word. Like, dude, that's just. Anyways, what I'm getting at is, like, there's so much more possibilities than a lot of times we may be aware of. And that's an experience I've had of, like, okay, so here's, like, a version of, like, what I hold in my head as, like, the life I want to live and what I want to create and what I'm in the process of doing it. But even then, that's, like, for me now, like, with blinders on.
Yeah.
And now, like, those blinders are coming off even more, and it's just, like, there's never-ending possibilities. And, like, that's going to continue. That's going to be a process. And, man, that has just been really present to me. Like, man, there is so much in life that, like, I haven't even, like, had a small taste of that I don't even know about.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I think it's so important who you surround yourselves with. Because my experience has been, like, who I'm surrounded with. I may have the largest goals of those who I'm surrounded with, but then I go be around other people, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, this huge thing that I have to tackle for them is just like this little thing over here. Like, I've just created it big, and I think maybe a different context in it, like an epiphany that happened with me with that was, like, Grant Cardone. Probably everyone knows Grant Cardone and his whole 10X thing.
Yep.
So I used to hear that as, like, just this, well, double it, triple it, 10X it, like it was supposed to just be this motivational thing. But as I started to realize, similar to what you're talking about, like possibilities and things, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm hearing what he's saying a little bit more with this 10X thing. He's saying this, oh, I want to have this house that you've created into this big thing that's maybe a 20-year plan or whatever. For someone else that's 10X'd and, like, totally got another mindset, that's something that's just handled on the way.
Yeah.
It's not this huge, ginormous thing, and it's only going to be as big as you decide it to be.
Yeah.
If you decide, oh, yeah, that's a little thing on the way that, yeah, well, obviously I'm going to have a nice house because, yeah, like, I want a beautiful place to be with my family and friends and stuff, but, like, that's just a thing. But it's so easy, I'd say like 99% of people are just like something like that would be their end goal.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, I have a quick comment on that. Kudos to Grant Cardone and because, like, literally, like, 10X'd is now, like, a verb that is, like, coming into, like, a lot of people's everyday language.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, like, you need to 10X that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's almost like a verb now.
Yeah.
In, like, everyday language. And, like, people who I know aren't even, like, diehard Grant Cardone fans.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
or even self-help.
Or even self-help. Like they know what that means now. And I'm like, that's a guy that's doing some things in life, And so, and then what I also wanted to say on that is, like, yeah, now that you say that, like, I can totally see what you mean by, like, hearing it one way in the beginning, and now realizing that, like, yeah, it can go a lot deeper than initially thought.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been my experience, for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. Well, dude, my rant I think will go right into what our podcast will be about. And it's just simple. And it's, there's times where you may not feel like you've got it together or producing like you want to produce. And, like, that's okay. Like, just make a change and keep going. Like, it's so the temptation to just beat yourself up like that's going to help, or like you deserve to be beat up because you're not doing everything that you see yourself doing, is so easy. But it doesn't help at all.
Yeah.
It actually does the opposite. And so, like, just pull all the emotion out of it, assess where you're at, assess what you got to do, and then get after it.
Yep.
So, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think that'll roll into our podcast pretty well. It's pretty simple, but everyone goes through it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, there's times where you wake up and you realize I can be doing more. I can be more, and yeah. So just do it. Don't stew on what happened in the past.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Well, real quick, thank you to Larson Waste, world's best trash company. Why don't you hit them up on Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Give them a follow. See what we're up to.
The old YouTube.
Yeah, Tyler's about to start popping out some big things. So,
Oodalolly.
ooh, the lolly is right. So, dude, why don't you introduce and kind of give me your initial thoughts on the podcast topic for today?
So yeah, our podcast topic today is we're going to talk about relationships with ourselves.
The most important relationship, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And something that it has been present for me recently, and not even just in the last week, but also like probably like the last month, that I've just been kind of mulling over, and I have a need to sit down and dive deeper into it. But is like my relationship with myself, and like what is useful and what isn't, and like how I would like it to be, because it's changed a lot recently, but there's so much work still to do that, like, for me it's present to like, yeah, I've got some things to do there. But I think it's like really important for everybody, obviously, that they're kind of aware to it, and that they're present to it, because your relationship with yourself is, I mean, if it's not good, then I don't know what else is going to be good in life.
Yeah, like it really reminds me, Jordan Peterson has a clip where I think he was down in Australia or something, on like a Good Morning America type show. It seems like it's kind of like a panel, and they interact with the audience. And one lady gets up and she says, okay, well, like, what do we do about these huge threats like climate change or this or that or politics? And Jordan Peterson is like, well, like, did you make your bed this morning? Like, take care of yourself. Like, and then things will reverberate. Take care of what you need and handle yourself. And then you can start looking at your immediate circle. And then after that, maybe you can expand that a little bit and then a little bit. But it's not out there, it's in here.
Yep.
And I think that's the same way with the relationship. Like, if you can't, you're not going to have a successful relationship with your spouse, with your employees, with the person that's waiting your table, if you don't have yourself handled.
Yeah.
There's no way to. I don't know how you would.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to go out and do anything else in any other aspect of life if there's a whole big mess going on inside.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say I spoke to it a couple times. Like my experience in my life right now, like I've talked a few times about just cleaning. When you don't know what to do, just clean.
Yeah.
Organize things, get things squared away, and like that really is such a, yourself is handled.
Yeah.
And man, I can really speak to that. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's kind of, what it makes me think of is if you are looking to be fit and you've done some research and you know that eating double stuffed Oreos does not contribute to your intention of being fit.
Those little double stuffed Oreos.
It would be and you know that, like, when you want double stuffed Oreos, you eat a sleeve of double stuffed Oreos. And so, like, having that all in account and, like, you've recognized everything there, like, it'd be responsible to not have double stuffed Oreos in your house.
Yeah.
If you've got this intention to be fit. And so, like, that's handled. So, I want to say, because I want to kind of separate these two things, because I do think someone can be steady and be who they are no matter what's going on outside of them. No matter where they're placed, what circumstances outside of them. We've talked about that a lot of times in the podcast. If your internal state is dependent on your external circumstances, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely hold that to be true. And just like the diet and the Oreo case scenario that I laid out over here, there's certain things you can do to have your external circumstances to where it's as ideal as possible to be who you ought to be. So, like, I think it's just wise to, like, have set up so that's as easy as can be to be who you want to be. And there's not these other things hanging out there. And so, in my roundabout way of wanting to really explain what I'm saying is, like, I feel that in my life right now a lot because there's a lot of, like, it's just different. I'm living in a camp trailer. Nothing's organized. My office is a mess. My little camp trailer is a mess. My house is down to studs and
getting remodeled.
And it's like there's the pressure of everything that's going on in my life, and it's like, you know, the pressures there of my dog needs to be walked, and also the pressure of, like, big decisions that need to be made. And so it's easier when, like, you've got a better chance of being who you want to be in every situation if you're responsible about your circumstances.
Yeah.
And so you can be whoever you want to be in whatever circumstances. Absolutely have the power of that.
Yeah.
But set yourself up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of going back to this whole thing with your relationship with yourself, like, I think that's why it's so important to handle yourself first.
Yeah.
Because it's what sets you up for success. And so what I'd wonder is, like, for you, John, what does a successful relationship, like, I know we had a conversation, we've got a mutual friend, and this friend you've been closer to than I have in the past. He's been a close friend to you, and you told me at one point, you called him and said, hey, what does being a good friend look like to you, or something to that effect. So that's my question to you, is, like, what does a successful relationship with yourself look like to you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say a successful relationship with myself looks like I am able to, be real enough with myself, be in integrity with myself to, like, realistically, from my experience, like, push myself to be what I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But then also understand that, like, guess what? I'm a human, and I got to give myself room for, like, it's going to be a process, and, like, it's going to take work, and there's going to be, it's not just going to be a straight line there. It's going to be a path, And so to me, that's what it looks like to me, because I am my biggest critic.
Mm-hmm.
And I speak for myself there. I would venture to say at least a lot of people that's similar.
Yeah.
If not all people.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, that's what it looks like to me, is, like, listen, like, for myself, I look to have a relationship with myself that, like, yeah, okay, I'm going to hold myself accountable to these things of, like, what I want to create myself to be, and have an understanding that it's going to take work. And where I get bogged down is that I'm at times overly harsh on myself.
Mm.
Like, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is I want to share an experience about it. So it was such a quick experience, but it was so profound to me. And similar ones have happened in the past, but it's really what's really sparked an interest in this topic was on a call a couple days ago, with other people, and someone else was talking about something that they wanted to create in life that I could very much so relate to, because it's something that I want to create in my life, in my own version. And someone else in the call is like, well, hey, it's interesting you say that, because like, John over here, listen, he's creating that like himself. Like, you have someone else that's going through a similar experience, and like, yeah, man, like, yeah, maybe sometime you might want to talk to him about that. And then he moved on in the conversation. It was like super quick, super simple, and it's not like he made this big thing. But the experience on my end of it is he said, like, yeah, I was doing those things, which I am, and I'm in the very process of creating them. But I did not see myself as that person.
Mm-hmm.
I saw myself as this person who's bogged down and like wading through mud to get it done, and like, having to walk through a swamp to get it done, so to say. And like and then when he said it that way, I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I am the person like doing that, and I'm just doing it. Like, there doesn't need to be a mess internally around it.
Yeah, well, and I think lots of times like your imagination is used inappropriately, and it's like got this picture of how it's supposed to play out perfectly of you doing it, which is funny because chances are like you don't even know fully what it looks like to do it. So as you're discovering that, I found myself, I'll be in the middle of that discovery doing what I intend to do and putting judgment on it as if something's wrong, because I had this imagination that didn't have any of the information of exactly what it would look like. And it's like, how insane is that? Like, I have an imagination of something that I don't know anything about, of exactly how it will be, but I do want this in goal. And now, as I'm going through it, since it doesn't align with this imaginary story that I made up at the beginning,
I'm wrong.
I'm judging myself of how I've been in the middle. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nuts.
And that's been my experience in a nutshell. Like, and I realized, like, okay, listen, yeah, I'm not perfect, but like, yeah, I'm in the middle of doing that, and it's okay. Like, there's going to be, like, road bumps that we're going to have to go over. But, like, there's a messiness internally about it that I realized, like, oh, that's, like, I don't want that. Like, let's figure out how to take that, put it aside, and just be in the process and, like, be okay with what's going on and get through it and create it, and voila. Like, we'll get there.
Yeah, well, and that's, I think Gary Vaynerchuk, I've quoted, like, 3 different guys now today, but my feeling of it and what I always remind myself, I think he said it absolutely best, at least for me, that like sums all this up and like the solution to it. And he said, looking back F's with your neck. Like, that's definitely been my experience. Like, just don't look back. Like, if you're at where you're at and it's different, analyze what got you there, what you want to do different, and then move. But this looking back, that's where judgment, guilt, all these things that bog you down, that they're limitations. And like creation, leadership, and limitation. Like creation and leadership do not go well with limitations.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a useful thing to have limitations part of your creation, part of your leadership.
Yeah, it's
so
constraining.
It's constraining. That's correct. You are correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, dude. That I feel pretty complete around that. I liked what you shared there. Do you have any? I don't want to cut you off though. You got any more you want to share with that?
I just know that like I'm gonna be looking at my relationship with myself. Like, I'm gonna take time to sit down and just like look at my relationship with myself and be like, yeah, like this is how I'm gonna deal with myself, because I know like that's how I'll be able to create things, and like that's how I'm gonna be.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate everyone listening. Share with your buddies. Peace.